Hello, welcome to another episode of Write. Today I'm going to interview author Tom Frye for the fourth of our interviews. And let's see, Tom, how are you doing, by the way?
I'm fine, Rick.
All right, well, let's get right to it then.
Ready to
Now,
roll.
yes, all right. What is the most valuable piece of advice you've been giving about your writing? And who gave it to you?
I read a book by John Gardner, and
Really?
yeah, I don't. You know that name, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah. Um, Probably 30 years ago, I read that book, and he said, "No matter what you have to do, write." He
Right.
said, "If you got to beg, borrow, and steal, if you got to live with your parents, if you got to rely on somebody else, whatever you do, keep writing."
Right.
And I have all the things that I've been through. I have done that constantly and maintained my a writing schedule. I've never broke away from it. I probably write 7 days a week.
That's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not
That's good,
eight
though.
hours, not 8 hours a day like I used to, but 3 or 4 hours at least.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a constant with me, and that I think I got that ingrained by John Gardner saying that, and he's long since gone, but
Oh,
that
yeah.
was great advice.
It's an old book, by the way, isn't it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
What was the name of that book, by the way?
Um, but it was the something writing, and it was all based on his life and what he passed on to other writers. I don't remember the title.
Well, that's good advice nonetheless, right? Now, what do you think is the best way to improve writing skills for a newborn author or an established writer?
Well, I tell you what I like to do. I like to write something first and have a body of work to work with,
Right?
and then rewrite. Rewriting is what I enjoy the most. When
Really?
I Yeah, my book Behind the Eight Ball, which I just released, was my autobiography, and by God, I had to go over everything several times.
Really? How
Um,
many times did you have to go over it?
Probably about 10.
10 times? Wow, it's a
Yeah,
lot.
and Beyond the Wind, I went over that about 14 times. I really got thorough with both of those books. One was true, one was all fact based, which is my life, 45 years of my youth work, and
Right?
that's Behind the Eight Ball. Uh,
Oh, yes.
I named it that because of Scratching on the Eight Ball is my first book, and people know me by that book, and
Right.
so I thought, behind the eight ball, what's behind that, And this is my life, and the rewriting was fun. I like to rewrite. I'm better at that. I improve the story. Nothing's set in stone. That's what I would tell early writers, that don't worry if you have to change something. Don't worry if somebody suggests you change something.
Right.
Just try to go with the flow. Um, because you're only improving it. You're getting it better and better.
That's good advice, too. Now, what advice would you give to help others create their plot lines? Because that's a question I'm asked frequently. How do I come up with a plot?
Oh
It's
gosh,
a corollary to the question, where do you get your ideas? But they're really asking, how do you come up with a plot?
yeah,
So
one
how
that
do
works,
you?
one that works too.
Yeah, really.
um, you know, my stories are image driven. I see them in my head first, and then I report what I write. I write what I see, and
Oh, that's fairly unusual for a writer, isn't it?
yeah, and it always works. My plots always come together. My characters, my themes. I think to give advice to a new writer is stick with your plot and follow it all the way through. If you have to, write pages and pages of
Oh,
notes might
yeah,
help.
yeah, yeah. That's good advice.
Um, because that way you rein it all in at the very end. You don't let it get away from you, because stories will get away from you.
How do they assemble the plot line, though? They take notes, and how do they get the right mix that works?
I just say write it, put it on, throwing paint on a wall. You throw your words on that paper. Don't worry what they look like, how you scribble them, at least you can read them. My words come out hieroglyphic, but
Yeah.
as long as I can read them, I have a plot and I stick to that, and I don't do a lot of notes.
Really?
Yeah, my last 2 books I've written, I didn't take any notes. I just wrote from the cuff.
Really?
Yeah, Dogs and Diamonds just came together out of nowhere, and I passed it on to some. It's about the U.S. military over in Afghanistan, and about a deprogrammer who's a specialist in the Mind Over Martyr program. Her job is to de-radicalize extremists.
Wow.
And she gets in with a Delta team over there who escort her into hellholes all over the place. And I passed it on to several military personnel to review for me, to make sure I wasn't naive about guns and IEDs and by golly, they said, "Have you been there?" They said, "You're pretty spot on with your characterization and your descriptions."
Now, what has helped or hindered you most when you're writing a book? The biggest hindrance and the biggest help?
Not having enough time to write.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, that was
the most, right?
Yeah, for 12 years, for 45 years, I did youth work, and in between, I wrote. For 12 years, I was a courier, and I had my own delivery service, and it was few and far between that I could write. I'd never have the energy after I was done with a full day.
Really? So the time factor was your biggest hindrance, right?
Yes.
I'll be darned. What was the biggest help?
Oh,
what helped you the most? Just freeing up time?
Yeah, I think a lot of my lately, probably the last 10 years, I've had a lot of support from readers on Facebook.
Right.
And because of my website, I never really got emails from my readers because they're mostly kids, and kids won't take the time to write to a writer. I mean, I'd get a few letters from teachers now and then and probation officers, but most of my support came from my readers on Facebook.
But kids don't write letters anymore, too.
No, they don't. I had one boy
email you or text you, or Facebook message you, but that's about it.
Yeah, and my Signals from the Corner book that I was published by Alan Peterson, who started American Tool here in Nebraska.
Right.
His requirement was I give away 10 books to each youth agency in Nebraska, and I did. I got one letter back from an 8th grade girl who was an unwed mother, and she was in solitary confinement.
What?
And
oh my God!
At Geneva, evaluation center.
Jesus, that seems extreme, right?
And she wrote to me and she says, "I read your book, Signals from the Corner, and I'm going to be a teacher when I get out of here."
Really?
Yeah, and I met her. I met her about 4 years later, and she became the foster daughter of one of my best friends.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and it was kind of a cool connection, and she did become a teacher. So, yeah, it's kind of like...
That's a great story, Tom.
Well, and I gave 80 copies of that book away to the women at the women's penitentiary, and I had all these letters from these mothers who said...
Wait, the women's penitentiary?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So I had a lot of inmates writing to me saying, "Now I know why my kid acted up. Now I know why my kid, he had ADHD." And I had one mother asked me, she said, "When I get out of here, I'm going to have you over for a steak dinner."
Oh.
And I said, "Well, that's nice. What are you in there for?" She goes, "Killing my husband."
Oh, no. Well, I'd say that's a no to having dinner over there, right?
You know
You
what?
got to keep steak knives away from her.
Yeah, I met the lady. I met her afterwards, and she was very nice and very intelligent, and it was self-defense.
Really?
Yeah, it was a terrible situation she got herself into, and
Well, how did she get, if she killed him in self-defense, how did she get put away?
they had a fight over his gun, and she got it away from him,
Oh, oh, oh.
and she shot him, and so yeah, it was a sad situation, but she was a very nice lady, and had read my book and said it applied to her grandson, and appreciated everything I'd written in there.
Wow. Now,
Yeah.
does writing energize or exhaust you or both, maybe?
Oh, it does both. You know, some days well, nowadays I write about 2 hours
Right?
and I'm zapped.
Do you
I have
write twice a day or once a day?
twice a day, twice
Twice.
a day. Yeah.
The
And
second time, do you write 2 hours too, right?
2 or 3 hours on
2
my
or 3
second
hours?
run.
Okay.
And I'm zapped. I mean, that first run I need a nap. And I don't know if I had an aneurysm 2 years ago. My aorta exploded, and I drove myself to the ER and saved my life.
You drove yourself?
Yeah, jumped in the car
Wow.
and drove. The doctor
This
said if
is
I would have waited for an ambulance, I would have died.
really,
Yeah. So, um, I
that's,
um, I don't know if that's probably why I'm zapped all the time of energy. Like I used to be able to write 8 to 10 hours a day and no more.
you think about writing when you're not writing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That could be the key.
3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, I wake up with a great idea.
Yep, yep.
And then I have to make myself stay in bed so I don't go turn the computer back on.
Now, at what stage or stages of your life have you done most of your writing?
Uh, Probably this stage right here.
Right?
Back when I did foster care and my truancy work, I wrote just very. I had quality time, but it was very limited time. It wasn't quantity. It wasn't a lot, and
Right.
I would write in spurts and save it all. And took me a while to patch a book together that way.
I imagine.
Uh,
Yeah, it would.
and
But
this
like, let's
last,
say, how old were you wrote when you wrote, or what stage of your life were you when you wrote Stagheart? Because Stagheart kind of defines you.
yeah, well, I was about 20 years into my youth work by then.
Well, by the way, the Havelock, the Great American Novel, really defines you too, right?
Oh yeah, that's a combination of three books because I hold on,
Yep. Coffee break.
show off my Renaissance cup here.
Yep.
um, People were asking for scratching on the 8 ball. They were asking for the Kid, the Cop, and the Con, and they were asking for the Woods of Bloody Mary. They're all three connected. They all the same characters.
Right.
And on a self-publishing budget, I could not publish all three of them separately.
Got it.
So I combined them, and I combined them with a story that I'd written back when I was 14 years old, called Wings Like Eagles, and it was about bikers down in Sprague, Nebraska.
Right.
And so that's how the story started, and it was kind of like full circle coming back to that story.
Wow.
Yeah.
I knew that about you.
Pardon?
I never knew that about you.
Yeah, well, see, and I wrote 900 pages of that book. When I was 14, between 14 and 16, I wrote about 900 pages.
900 pages?
Yes, it was
Jesus, that's a long
it's going to
book.
be a 3-book series. Is what it's going to be. It's called Wings Like Eagles. And I took my motorcycle, I took my flag off my jean jacket, I took my patches off my jean jacket, and I rode out to Stevens Creek, and I started a fire, and I burned all 900 pages, saying that I was going to start over like a phoenix reborn, and I was going to start right because this story was bikers and fighting and punching and blood, it had a purpose, but it just didn't meet, what, it didn't meet my standards of trying to deliver a message.
Wow.
So I decided I was going to start all over, and I burned that whole story. And I
Do you have
started
any regrets from burning it?
What's that?
Do you have any regrets now from burning it?
No.
Oh, good.
Because probably a week later is when I started scratching on the 8-ball, and my writing took on a whole new meaning then.
Yep. I imagine it did.
And I saw where I learned. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you the pages and pages and reams of paper I went through before I finally wrote something that was publishable.
Well, so you learned from your experience, right? For burning the
Oh,
original draft, right?
yep.
Oh. Now, does anyone in your family read your books?
Well, I'll tell you what. My mom, she graduated. She left school at 8th grade. She had ADHD pretty bad, and she's held 150 jobs since then. And she's been a workaholic.
Really?
But, yeah, but she has never actually read one of my books. And
Really?
yeah, and my dad did. He read Scratching on the 8-ball. My grandmother's all read it. My aunt read it. My cousin is a good supporter. She reads all my stuff. But not a lot of readers in my family.
Yeah. Did anyone in your family disapprove of anything you've written?
Oh man,
Say
if my uncle
too
was still
drug
alive,
intensive, or
if my uncle was still alive, he might not. He might not like how I portrayed him in my Beatrice book. Oh,
yeah.
but I've had nobody complain. That I didn't change any names to protect the guilty in my writing of any of my family. Beatrice, though, takes place down in Beatrice, small town Beatrice in Nebraska,
Right.
and it's based on fact. And I was the Kennedys were a clan that they were moonshiners. They were rum runners. They lived in Beatrice. They were related to the Kennedys in Washington. And
Well, they were. They were.
Oh yeah. And my uncles were involved with them. And one night, my uncle was mysteriously murdered in his den, and they made it look like a suicide. And
Really?
yeah, my other uncles all said it was the Kennedy clan, and they couldn't prove it. And when I went to write the book, which is 3 years ago, I talked to the 85-year-old son of my uncle that was killed. He was 10 years old when that happened. So I talked to him about his memories of it, and he swears that, yeah, they had something to do with it, but there was no proof. And there hasn't been a Kennedy in Beatrice for 40 years.
Oh my God.
So I went ahead and used the name, thinking I wouldn't have any trouble from anybody.
Right.
But I didn't go too close to that story. I kind of wrote around that. And yeah.
Yep. I guess so. I mean, do you have any other writers in your family, or just you?
Oh, just me. I don't know where the writing came from. I think the storytelling came from my grandfather, who was.
I was going to ask you where the storytelling came from as your final question, but did your grandfather was a storyteller?
Oh yeah. We used to have to go down to Beatrice every Sunday night to watch Lawrence Welk and Ed Salt.
Oh my gosh, Lawrence Welk. Oh
and
no,
the Smothers Brothers, and
oh God.
and I used to go out and sit on the back porch because I got bored with Lawrence Welk.
Right. I guess so.
My grandpa would chew his red man and tell me all these stories. He'd spit tobacco and he'd offer me a chew, and I'd go to take it, and he'd give me a Wrigley spearmint gum instead, or juicy fruit. But I would sit and listen to his stories for hours, and he painted so many nice pictures, and
so many nice word pictures.
Oh yeah, he had a talent. I mean, he could have been a Nebraska storyteller with the Arts Council.
Boy.
Yeah, so I learned a lot from him, and I don't think anybody else in my family had any creative juices like that. They were all pretty well plain and simple people who, uh, were colorful in their own right. But
Not
my
storytellers,
grandpa,
right?
yeah, my grandpa, I think he picked up from his mother was Lakota, and I think he picked up a lot of the native storytelling
From
gift.
her.
Yep, yep.
From her.
And he gave
Now,
me this Buffalo Bill emblem. He gave me this because he said at 9 years old, Buffalo Bill gave him one of these. And
really?
yeah, he went to his show in Scottsbluff, Nebraska.
Oh my God. Buffalo
Yeah,
Bill.
and I researched it, and I found out, yeah, he would have been alive then because Buffalo Bill lived into the I think it was 80, I don't know what year, but it was the 1980s. And my grandpa he could have met him. And
Well, he
it could
probably
have been,
did, right?
well, it could have been an impersonator too. Who knows? But he, he was convinced it was Buffalo Bill.
Yep. Yep.
And he
Hey, now,
says,
Tom, what
Buffalo Bill gave him that. So I've worn that in
ever
memory.
since? Yep. Tom, how did they find you on Facebook?
Tom J. Frye on Facebook.
Tom J. Frye on Facebook. And what's your website address?
www.tomfrye.org.
Right. And let's see, the address, Whitecap Publications publish your stuff now, and it's www.whitecappublications.com. And my name is Rick Moore, and this concludes today's, the fourth of 8 interviews for author Tom Frye. So, Tom, I'm signing off now, and tune in next week for the next episode.
I'll be looking forward to it, Rick.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.